Meng, Xiaoyan, I'm sorry, Sa. I really have to stop. At this moment, I'm very reluctant. Just as I was getting a little misty-eyed and wanted to stop, a voice suddenly came to my mind. Are you really going to stop? Are you sure you want to stop? Komori. This voice is my father's. It's the voice of my father when he played with me when I was young. Sam, why are you stopping? This is just a game. You should go over and kill that NPC now and level up to levels in a row. That's what I remember the Yomi answering, because he was already surrounded by monsters, and it would be too dangerous for me to rush over there. Instead, my father taught me that danger is always there, and you can't shy away from it just because you're afraid of it. And my father had told me that genetic evolution is, essentially, an adventure for all living things. It has been a long and complex journey, full of unknowns and variables. But it is the unknowns and variables that make life diverse and innovative. The creatures face countless challenges and crises on this adventurous journey. But it's these challenges and crises that drive the evolution and adaptation of living things. If you don't dare to take risks, how are you going to survive in the future when you enter the shelter? To evolve, you have to do whatever it takes. Sam, everything in this world is like this moment in the game. At the end of the road and on all sides, you have to get stronger if you want to survive. Dad, let me ask you, do you have a way to become stronger instantly? I know Sam is a smart kid. You're just too nice to think about that step. Even though this is just a game, and Dad has taken you through it many times, the real world is often harsher than the game. A lot of times the only person you can count on is yourself. So let Dad do it for you for the first time. It was when I was young, I was simply terrified, although it was in a game just to upgrade, but I always remembered my father's teaching. If you want to survive, you have to get stronger. Do you have a way to become stronger instantly at this moment? That was the question my father asked me at that time. Instantly stronger. Suddenly the solution came to me. The answer I already had. This time let's see the results. I still have a chance. This is no time to give up. If that method works, I may not be able to escape. At this moment, God's heavenly son had already chased after me, and a long sword in his hand had already started to glow blood red. Even though this way is extremely risky, it's the only chance I have left. Divine blood level blood, slayer beast soul, fusion transformation, only to see the bloody slaughterer beast, soul instantly surging into my body. A blood-colored light shooting up into the sky. The divine celestial son, who was originally prepared to attack me, was instantly shaken back. He couldn't believe it. How is this possible? At that moment, my body underwent a bizarre change, and in the blink of an eye, I was transformed into the bloody slaughterer's appearance. And with that, the black beetle armor that I was wearing changed its shape, wrapping the change into a bloody slayer still tightly around me. After the fusion transformation, I only feel that my body is full of power. The golden axe has become as light as nothing, and the speed is extremely fast. At this time, someone said that fusing dual beast souls was a 9 deaths. He actually dared to do it while running. This is definitely a madman. Everyone frowned. See, all this change was too fast. Qingjuan's whole face was black at this time. What's this all about? Many people looked at the divine, celestial son and the others, who were still desperately chasing inside the mountain range with odd faces. It was impossible for this number of them to find the. Qingjuan couldn't believe that not only had this guy snatched the golden giant axe, but after killing the divine-blooded creature, he had even obtained the divine-blooded creature's beast soul. The crowd was talking at this time. Having used the disposable divine blood beast soul arrow, they hadn't even got a single hair. The divine celestial son had lost his face this time. Who the hell is that guy? It's amazing that we have such a figure in our shelter. I seem to have heard someone shouting for Brother Quinn just now. I wonder if they were shouting for him. At this moment, I am digging a pit at the foot of a mountain, intending to bury the golden giant axe here first. This giant axe cannot be like the beast soul's general income in the void. It seems that the transformation has a time limit. With my current ability to fuse the transformation can last 7 or 8 minutes. Fortunately, I did not fight with the divine celestial son of God. After all, it was a joint action of the 3 families, and the golden giant axe was their common interest. As if they were all offended, it can only be buried here for the time being. Beast soul is the basis of life, cannot be sold. This golden axe can be sold for 2 million easily. At this time, I am incredibly excited, and just outside the entrance to the shelter, there were already quite a few people gathered here, all waiting for me to return to the shelter. Some people even suspected that I was just a coward, hiding in the woods and not coming out. calling for my death in a minute. At this time, I simply laughed like crazy. What should be buried has already been buried. You can still see that I have any beetle not. I got to the door and was stopped. It turns out that you have to go in and out of the shelter one by one. And that's when someone wanted to search me. Suddenly a voice rang out. What was the point of wasting time on that waste? That kind of waste would it be? The youth pushed me viciously. Get lost. Don't get in the way here. He turned his head and went to search the others. I looked at it faintly, a cold smile spreading at the corners of my mouth, and headed inside the shelter, and the streets were full of people talking about Sunset Slope. The divine celestial sun was going to be pissed off and spit blood this time. At one time, divine blood arrow. It is said that God's heavenly son was so angry that he smashed his house. This coin is really something. It's like a tiger's mouth pulling teeth. Listening to them, coin's brother called. I cannot help but whispered in my heart, cursed. Kill 1,000 knives, Su Xiao Chao. Called what is not good, called coin's brother. And Su Xiao Chao was in Qin Zhuan's secret room at this time, only to hear Qin Zhuan seriously said if I didn't stop the divine celestial sun, you would have been heavily tortured by them. Come on, tell me, who the hell is Coin? Where does he live? How can I get in touch with him? How do you and him eat? Su Xiao Chao is simply having a hard time saying, Sister Zhuan, I really don't know him. I just met him once, in the Falling Valley, and bought some blast mantis from his hand. Qin Zhuan is helpless. Well, you go contact him and tell him that I am willing to pay a high price for the divine blood beast soul and divine blood treasure to in his hand. Looking at the Qin Zhuan in front of her, Su Xiao Chao was simply shy. This big sister is also too good looking, and did not even think about it. Agreed. Returning to the depths of the mountain range, I was simply furious. God's heavenly son actually gave so much bounty for catching me. Why don't I sell myself for money? Looking at the status window in front of him, the normal gene, primitive gene, and divine blood gene have all increased. It's the mutated gene that hasn't increased at all. Suddenly a cooing sound rang out, and a pair of tiny eyes actually emerged from within that black pool of water. Not knowing what it was, I was staring at the deep pool when suddenly there were voices coming from the distance, and my face changed. There were actually people in the depths of this mountain range. Soon I saw a young man with tattered clothes, many old and new wounds, and a very tired-looking appearance coming towards the deep pool. The young man looked very tired and in bad shape with so many bruises on his body. I was slightly stunned. This person clothes, how to break into such will not be down. I dare not imagine. After all, this idea is too dangerous. Watching the man take a step towards me, I hastily reminded my friend that there was an iron-toothed crocodile in the pool over there, so it was best not to go there. When the young man saw me, he first frowned, then asked in a cold voice, what place is this, and in which direction is the shelter of glory? I flinched and looked at the young man with a strange look in my eyes and said, this is the steel armor shelter. I don't know what direction the glory shelter is in. Steel armor shelter. I can't believe I've come this far. Am I already within range of another shelter? The young man muttered twice to himself. Then the young man looked up at me and said, almost in a commanding tone, take me to the shelter. Hearing the young man's words, I frowned slightly. Where was the young man's tone halfway to begging for help? I said lightly, you'll be able to reach the shelter before dark if you go south from here. I have hunting to do, so I won't be accompanying you. I was about to turn around and go back to the bushes when the young man suddenly moved and punched me in the back of the heart. Instantly I stumbled and fell to the ground, hitting my head on top of a rock and bleeding out immediately. I stood up covering the wound on my head and turned to glare at the young man. Fuck, what are you doing? The young man looked at me coldly and said, you just need to obey me. Not so much nonsense. Take me to the shelter. I couldn't stand it anymore. It was the first time I'd seen begging still so tough. I summoned my bronze crescent gun and I then stabbed at the youth without the slightest hesitation, and the bronze crescent spear seemed to be a viper spitting out its mail. Instantly sprang out. The young man gave me a contemptuous look. The 3-stage basic marksmanship taught in integrated education. What a piece of rubbish. Even if my beast soul is completely destroyed, you're no match. Only to see that young man stretched out a hand standing palm as a sword, directly chopped to the bronze crescent gun, and that hand even exudes a jade-like strange luster. The bronze crescent moon spear, transformed by the soul of the bronze-toothed beast, was even directly cut off by the young man's palm. As simple as a steel knife cutting wood, a shocked look appeared on my face. Only half of the broken gun was left in my hand, and it was actually chopped off with my bare hands. This was the supernuclear gene technique. Supernuclear genetic arts are related to ancient martial arts, and the cultivation methods are mostly monopolized. The more advanced the supernuclear genetic arts are, the harder it is to learn them. The young man looked at me indifferently. He can't imagine that a piece of trash like you still has some insight. I'll give you one last chance. Die or lead the way. I was furious in my heart. A mouthful of rubbish. Didn't your family teach you to be polite when you go out? I directly summoned the black beetle beast spirit, transforming it into armor to protect my entire body. And with a whip kick, I fiercely threw myself at the young man. If you want to find death, I'll make you whole. The young man's gaze was cold. The palm of his hand with a jade luster ruthlessly chopped towards my leg. As the young man's palm fell, I didn't hear the sound of bones breaking, but instead there was a sound like a metal clash. My leg was instantly shaken aside by the young man's palm, and a white mark was chopped out above the gold-like leg armor. At this moment, I was very shocked. My god's blood level armor had actually been hit with scratches. I couldn't believe it. Looking at the depth of the scratches on my legs, I was secretly surprised. This person's supernuclear genetic technique was already beyond the average level. The young man, however, was also shaken by the power of my leg, and his body fell back a few steps. A look of surprise on his face and greed flickered in his eyes. Looking at the young man's gaze, I was furious, and when he wasn't paying attention, I reversed and kicked again, only to see the young man look cold, but did not choose to retreat, but clasped his hands together and resisted. I was a bit surprised, because the young man easily blocked the leg that I had just used with all my might. The young man changed his palm into a grabbed my leg and twisted it so hard that I fell to the ground with a sudden twist. Then with one knee, it slammed hard on top of my waist and spine, and I let out a scream, feeling as if my spine was about to snap. Rubbish will always be forever. Even if you have a divine blood beast soul, you're still rubbish just the same. The young man's fists, punch after punch, hit the back of my head. It seemed like blood was burning in my heart, and I suddenly threw my body so violently that the back of my helmet hit him in the face, and the young man was immediately hit by me. His nose blood splashed, covered his nose and fell back several steps. I stared at the young man with a cold gaze. At this time, I was already angry to the extreme. I have to waste you today. I immediately summoned the bloody slaughterer, and the moment my body fused, I could only see a blood-red glow emanating from my surroundings. That young man was obviously a bit surprised. He probably didn't even dream that I actually had this kind of undercard. The bloody slayer transformed into a majestic monstrous body in just a few breaths, charging madly towards the young man. With the bloody slayer boost, I didn't care about the young man's attack at all, and slammed straight towards the young man. I swung my angry fist and slammed it hard into the young man's face, who at this point had no power to resist at all. Calling me rubbish was the most abhorrent thing I'd ever said in my life, and at this point, I'd long since been overcome with rage. As if on a rampage, I frantically smashed the young man's head over and over again, one at a time, harder than the other. When the anger in my heart subsided, I found that he was already dead. His face had been smashed by me, and his 5 senses had been turned into a mass of rotten flesh. I deactivated my bloody slayer transformation and black beetle armor, and all I could feel was pain in my body, as if the bones inside were cracking apart. I was secretly terrified, wearing divine blood armor, transforming into a blood slaughterer, and being so badly injured. The supernuclear gene technique was truly terrifying. Looking at the young man's body, he hesitated and reached for his clothes. After all, someone this strong usually has some assets. I forced my way through the discomfort and kept rummaging through the young man's body, and nowhere did I leave behind maybe it was just luck. It didn't take long for me to find a diamond-shaped block. It seemed to be a crystal. I looked at the crystal in my hand and pondered for a moment. This seems to be a high-level memory chip. Having a storage function is basically particularly precious. After returning to the shelter, I went to the medical clinic, and after checking, I found multiple broken bones, and it took me a long time to finish treating my injuries. Looking at the memory chip in his hand, it didn't look cheap at first glance. Perhaps it contained clues to the young man's identity. I hurriedly found out that intelligent machine and inserted that memory chip into the machine, wanting to see what was actually inside it, and I only looked at it for a moment before my eyes widened, and a look of surprise came over my face. It was just heavenly. Supernuclear genetic technique. What's written here is actually supernuclear genetic technique. I almost want to laugh up at the sky. In the virtual stereoscopic image projected by the chip, A woman was making movements and reciting spells, and would also give some explanations. Ice muscle and jade bone technique. Isn't this the supernuclear gene technique used by the young man? Having seen the power of this supernuclear gene art, I was even more surprised in my heart. I locked myself in my room for 2 days and 2 nights, and finally memorized all the contents of the chip, and I practice the ice muscle and jade bone technique. And after a few days of practice, I do have an icy feeling in my body, as if my skin has become refined. Even my body temperature was 2 degrees lower than normal, so it must be a characteristic of this move. Then I destroyed the chip without even thinking about it. This kind of thing left on my body is likely to be a scourge in the future. Suddenly my mobile phone buzzed and vibrated, and I was very curious as to who was calling me at this time. It turned out to be my childhood friend, Jean D'Enfant, who grew up with me, asking me to go out and get together. I was quite happy, but when I heard that Hao was there, I felt a little down. I frowned tightly before I could say anything. The other side of the phone said to, "You come down first, I will drive to pick you up. We'll be there soon." In my mind, I secretly pondered that God Tenchi was still looking for me everywhere, but no one knew that I was coined anyway, so it was fine to go out and have fun. It wasn't long before I went out and saw a small private craft parked outside, and Jean D'Enfant was sitting in the pilot's seat waving at me. And behind it Saturday, a man and a woman, 2 young people talking. The woman is very pretty and quiet, called Zusai, and the man is Hao. Only to hear that Hao was bragging to Zusai about the magnificent scene of coin robbing the divine celestial sun, and the image of the divine celestial sun being so angry that it spat out blood. I was slightly speechless, secretly thinking, Hao, if you know that the coin brother is your cousin me, I guess it would be very embarrassing. I have a headache thinking about it. Hao's mother, my aunt, despises us, and now that her son is here, it's a real problem. I looked at Jean D'Enfant and asked, "Crazy, where are we going?" Only to hear the crazy man excitedly said, "To this is here. Starlight Martial Arts Dojo." Jean D'Enfant's face showed excitement. "I'm telling you, Tang Jinliu is going to fight an exhibition match at the Starlight Martial Arts Dojo. That's Tang Jinliu, the 5th son of the gods from the previous year, and what he's best at is the fierce and domineering sword technique. My favorite." Looking at the chattering lunatic, I was a bit speechless, but I was still shocked by Tang Jinliu's popularity, as none of the hundreds of thousands of seats were absent. And Tang Jinliu was famous for his fierce and domineering sword technique, very popular with young people nowadays, even more so than the several divine sons ranked even higher. At this time, the duel on the stage also reached the end, without the slightest surprise. Naturally, Tang Jinliu won the victory. Jean D'Enfant also looked at Tang Jinliu's beast soul with an excited expression. "Divine-blooded fury frenzy beast. If I had one like that, this life would be worth it." Hao on the side said, frothing at the mouth, "This is nothing. I see Tang Jinliu's this rage beast soul, not as good as coins that one." Jean D'Enfant heard this, naturally very upset. That way, coin brother, he robbed someone else. This person's character is problematic. How can he be compared to Tang Jinliu? I was in a cold sweat. "Crazy. You're right, but that time it was pure luck that I picked up a bargain. I'd be a fool to give it up." I was hesitant to tell them that I was the coin, so it seems that I should not tell them for now, lest it cause unpleasantness. After I returned home, I continued to practice the ice muscle and bone technique, recovering from my injuries in the meantime, and only entered this shelter world once every 2 days. And it had been half a month since the bronze-toothed beast had swallowed the black crystals, and finally its entire body had turned bronze in color, like a bronze sculpture. It's just that it's still a little different from the mutant copper-toothed beasts I've seen. And the mutant copper-toothed beasts I've seen other people hunt are usually twice as big. Evolved into a mutant copper-toothed beast though. Would love to eat to increase the mutant gene a bit, but I need the money more right now. As I think about it, it looks like it's time to go find that kid, and hopefully this time the rich kid will still be that powerful. Late at night, outside the Valley of the Falling Wind, Su Xiaoqiao finally arrived with cash in hand, and I carefully checked the surrounding area before I dared to show myself. Su Xiaoqiao said excitedly, "2 million cash, not a penny less. Brother coin, all this dry meat of the mutant copper-toothed beasts are mine." "Right. I'm just so excited. Take it away. It's a family heirloom jerky. It's the best of the best. You'll know it when you read it." Su Xiaoqiao said at this time, "Coin brother Qingjuan asked me to bring you a message. She wants to buy the divine blood, beast soul, and golden giant X you got. The price is negotiable." my heart secretly happy that this again to business. I calmly said, if you want to buy, let her out a good price. I am satisfied. Naturally, I will consider. The place I chose to target this time, in order to make money, is the bottomless pit, which contains a primitive level creature called the poison crystal scorpion. I hummed a little tune as I picked up the poisonous crystal scorpions I had trampled to death and threw them inside the cloth bag, then continued to walk inside the bottomless pit. The harvest is good, with the divine blood black beetle armor protecting my body. The poison crystal scorpions here couldn't hurt me at all, and were almost exterminated by me. Kind. I was in the midst of my excitement, but suddenly I heard someone call me by my nickname. I was shocked, alertly looking towards the direction from which the voice came. I couldn't help but mutter in my mind, could it be that my position had been exposed? Only to see a woman in red leather armor, sitting against a stalactite pillar in the rather white cavern, looking at me with a surprised expression on her face. I almost lost my voice. Qing Chuan. I didn't expect to see this woman here. I turned around and wanted to run away. Qing Chuan hurriedly said, don't go. Your grudge with God's heavenly son has nothing to do with me. Now I just hope you can carry me out of here. Hearing Qing Chuan's words, I was slightly stunned. I was very puzzled and asked, why? Why should I carry you off? Qing Chuan looked very helpless. Why are you so surprised? Can't you see that my foot is injured? It was only then that I reacted to the fact that I was now a coin and not an nurse maniac, and that Qing Chuan was now alone. So what did I have to be afraid of? Looking at Qing Chuan's injuries, I was secretly calculating in my mind, if I can take this opportunity to knock some favors out, as I thought. I couldn't help but look towards Qing Chuan's body, as if she had read my mind. Qing Chuan reached out, and a purple butterfly beast soul fluttered out, transforming into a purple dagger. Don't think that you can take advantage of me being injured. This dagger is made by a divine blood level beast soul poisonous heart. Butterfly, can your armor withstand it? I waved my hand hastily. You misunderstood. I didn't mean anything else. Didn't you just ask me to carry you out? My old face turned red. Luckily, there was an armor blocking it, and Qing Chuan couldn't see it. This woman can read minds, right? At this time, Qing Chuan said, as long as you bring me out safely, I will give you a sum of money. You and Su Xiao deal is not also for money. I smiled slightly. I do need money, but there is no hurry now. You just mentioned the mutant poison crystal scorpion. Did you kill it? Qing Chuan was very puzzled and said, killed, right behind. What happened? But unfortunately did not get the soul of the beast, and the body also fell in the scorpion heap. At this moment, Qing Chuan finally noticed the bag in my hand. You actually hunted and killed so many poisonous crystal scorpions, and not injured at all. I looked at Qing Chuan and said with a smile on my face, I can take you out, but I don't want the money. I want a mutant level beast soul as a reward. Before Qing Chuan could say anything, I followed up and said, and the mutated poisonous crystal scorpion that you killed belongs to me as well. I had armor on the outside of my body and couldn't feel anything. I just picked up Qing Chuan on my back, dragging her hips with one hand and carrying the cloth bag outside with the other hand. Qing Chuan said at this time, put me down when you get to the entrance of the shelter. I don't want to be seen with you. Save yourself the trouble. Qing Chuan thought to herself that in order to take away the corpse of the mutated poisonous crystal scorpion, he actually ate the scorpion that couldn't feed. This person must have a lot to lose. After walking for more than an hour, I suddenly put Qing Chuan down. The shelter is just ahead. Later let the people passing by send you back. In Qing Chuan's astonished gaze, I had stretched out my hand. Give me my mutant beast soul. Qing Chuan painfully summoned a black cat-like mutant beast soul and handed it over to me, asking in passing whether divine blood, beast souls and divine blood treasure axes were for sale or not. I smiled slightly. Divine blood beast souls are not for sale. And for treasure tools, add $2 million for a mutant beast soul. The treasure can't be taken out of the shelter, and the area of use is limited. So your request isn't very reasonable, is it? One price, $6 million. That's my limit. I am very happy to finally have money again. Deal, you prepare the money. I will ask Su Xiao to tell you the time and place of the deal. Qing Chuan looked at my departing back with a somewhat complicated expression. It really is a man who is greedy for money. At this time, there were no longer any of the divine heavenly son's people at the entrance to the shelter. They had searched for so long without finding them and had obviously given up. I've just reached the door, but I bumped into Hen Hao's group of youngsters, and it looks like Hen Hao is still doing well. Hen Hao had already seen me at this time, but did not want to greet me. I thought in my heart, will not pretend not to know it. As expected, Han Hao saw me coming this way and hurriedly turned his head, looking as if he was afraid that I would bring him any trouble. I'm secretly happy. This is simply great. And he looks down on us, and it's best not to have any friendship with Han Hao. And I wasn't about to call out to him, and walked over to them and ignored them, carrying my sack into the shelter. However, what I didn't expect was that Han Hao actually chased after me, and it looked like he was coming to clear the air with me. I only heard Han Hao coldly say, I heard that you messed with Qing Zhuan and the divine heavenly son. So there are some things I must make clear. From now on, don't say I'm your cousin in front of outsiders. And don't say you know me. I'm just starting out. I don't want you to affect my future. Listening to Han Hao's words, I agreed without the slightest hesitation. Well, I won't say that in this shelter world. We are strangers. I know very well in my heart that Han Hao, even without these things, you wouldn't treat me as a brother, would you? It's okay to look down on me. We're not even in the same boat. Picking up my backpack, I turned around and walked towards home. The deal with Qing Zhuan was a success, and when I returned to my room, I looked at the box full of money and gold coins, and I almost jumped up in excitement. It's great. Life will be better with this money, even when my father was alive. I have never seen so much money at one time. After sharing the joy with my mother and sister, I couldn't wait to take them out for a treat. Yan Yan, haven't you always wanted to eat sapphire ice cream? Today my brother is treating you, so you little greedy cat can eat it all. Sapphire Star's ice cream is so delicious and expensive that the neighbor's children eat it often, but my sister rarely gets to eat it. The mother said, Sapphire ice cream is too expensive. Even if you make money, we should save it. Looking at my mother, I hurriedly comforted Mom. Don't worry, not only did I earn money, I also obtained the mutant gene. The ground floor was full, and there were people queuing up for ice cream. Not bad for the most famous dessert shop. Let's go to the first floor. Who knew that we had only just reached the stairway when we were stopped by a male waiter in the shop. Sorry, you can't go up there. With a look of contempt and impatience on his face, the male waiter pointed to a small sign hanging on the wall next to the stairs. Celebrity and Noble Zone. I instantly understood what was going on. The first floor was an area that only privileged people could enter. Ordinary people with no status were not even qualified to go up there. We're not tired, so let's just wait around for a while. Sam, you go get Yan Yan some ice cream. My mother pulled me and tried to relieve me. I looked deeply at the little sign. Celebrity and nobility. What was that? Soon I would have all that, and more. Early the next morning, I was sitting on the air train to the teleportation station with a number of men and women who were traveling to the station as I was. The driver of the SkyTrain was obviously very cranky today, and I was thinking about what I should do when I entered the shelter space. Suddenly the air train but a violent shaking, with an ear-piercing sound of the brakes sounded. With the sound of the brakes, the people standing on the air train fell down. I was still thinking about the matter, but I didn't pay attention. I was still thinking about things at the moment, and without paying attention, I also involuntarily stumbled forward a few steps, and immediately hit a piece of tenderness. My hand subconsciously wanted to grab something to stand still, but this grab immediately feels some wrong. Into the hand of the play soft and tender bullet, I realized that I had crashed into a woman's back. My body was completely attached to the woman's buttocks, and my hands were holding the woman's proud peaks. The woman angrily cold drank. Backhand is a elbow, fast and hard to hit my face. This elbow is powerful and heavy. I subconsciously raised my arm to block, only to feel a forceful impact on their arms, and involuntarily retreated several steps before stopping their position. The woman has turned around smoothly, fiercely glaring at me, but only looked at a glance. Suddenly shrieked out, "It's you, fired, Qing Zhuan." The woman didn't shout out the words, and swallowed back the last words, but I was shocked and blurted them out. I really didn't expect that Qing Zhuan was even here, and it looked like she had already enlisted in the army, and her current status was that of a soldier. Qing Zhuan recognized me, but didn't make a move, just kept staring at me with cold and slightly disgusted eyes. I secretly laughed bitterly in my heart. I'm afraid she has already decided that I did it on purpose. It's no wonder I had accidentally stabbed her arse in the first place, and now, seeing this scene, I hurriedly explained. Just now the air train braked sharply. Many people like me unsteady and fell down. Everything is just a coincidence, Qing Zhuan said in a cold voice. Would I believe this kind of reason? Shameless. After doing such a nasty thing, you still don't have any remorse. You look like a repeat offender. At this time the transmission station arrived. I was relieved. Finally got rid of this woman. Simply terrible. Who knows, Qingjuan said at this time. I won't let you off easily. Aren't you going to the shelter? I'll be waiting for you. Good morning, Station Master Qing. Qingjuan had just walked to the front of the teleportation station. The soldiers on both sides of the teleportation station saluted Qingjuan in unison. I immediately stumbled, staring at Qingjuan with wide-eyed incredulity, having the urge to cry bitterly. I had a bad feeling that my good days were coming to an end. As the station chief of the transmission station, Qingjuan could completely grasp my whereabouts. No, I have to avoid Qingjuan a little bit, or else I can't live my life anymore. My identity as Brother Quinn can't be exposed just like that. I just walked a short distance away and saw God's heavenly Son and a bunch of other people standing outside the shelter, and actually called out to me, "What are you doing? What are you doing there? Brother has something good to take care of you," the man said as he waved at me. I know with my toes that calling him over is absolutely no good. I don't need to do it. I'm afraid I can help you guys because I'm not very strong. Don't talk rubbish. Are you itching? If you're told to come, you'll come. There are benefits for you. The man pulled down his face and glared at me fiercely. In addition to me, God's heavenly Son and the others paid to hire many desperate outlaws, and a bunch of them headed for the mountains. Those recruited outlaws looked very excited, because this time there was not only money to be made, but also quite a few primitive creatures. I hadn't heard anything from the mouths of the people, but looking at their gradually gloomy expressions, this operation was definitely not that simple. Mutant creatures and the like are no big deal to Divine Celestial Son and the others. What on earth do they want to do by calling in so many people? After walking for more than 10 miles, I saw a large hole in the ground in the canyon in front of me, stretching all the way to the depths of the ground, and God's heavenly Son and the others looked at the cave entrance and looked very excited. Yes, this is the place. We are here. I just saw that person ordering those outlaws. You go to explore the road first. Hurry up. What's the hurry? Originally, I wanted to fish in the water, but I did not want to hit the man directly pushed me out. Perform well. Do not let us down, oh. I was furious. This kind of cave in the deep forest. It looks very dangerous. He wants us to go in and try our luck. The bottom of the big rift is already dark, only relying on torches to illuminate. You can see the huge cavern-like underground space. The outlaws know it's time to fight for their lives, and they're walking slowly. If you don't hurry up, do you still want to get the rest of the money? The man raised his whip and fiercely lashed several people walking behind him, shouting in a cold voice, although it is going down. But the terrain is not difficult to walk. Along the way surprisingly did not happen anything. Has been to the bottom of the big fissure, and at this time in front of the appearance of a dark underground river, surging towards the other side of the cavern flow away. Do not know what in the end flow to what place. All the outlaws were relieved, and laughed and talked again, for none of them knew how to swim. At this time, someone asked, "There is no way out how to do. This mission is not the end," and only to see that person instantly took out a number of inflatable boats and crossed the river to the cave on the other side of the river. I had a bad feeling in my heart. Inflatable boats. It seems they had prepared for this. He said the cave across the river. What's there? The crowd used small pumps to inflate the inflatable boats, and in groups of 4 or 5, they got into the boats and rowed across the river. And I was very puzzled. Strange. Why didn't Divine Heavenly Son and the others get into the boat? Didn't they want to go to the other side of the river? There must be something wrong here. Suddenly, the water was turning, as if something was about to come out from under the water. I screamed in my heart. I'm afraid their target is what's under the water. I only heard a crash. A black thing broke through the water. Half of its body was exposed on the surface of the river. Like a python, a mouthful of it swallowed a living person on the boat into its mouth, and its huge body directly crushed the boat to explode. Everyone was shocked. Those who had already launched their boats desperately rowed back, and those who had not yet launched their boats dropped them and ran back. In my heart, I cursed the bastards of God's heavenly Son. This is to take human life to fill the monster's stomach off.